When you're facing one of these chronic symptom conditions, whether it's ME/CFS or long COVID, POTS, MCAS, fibromyalgia, and on, why do we see some symptoms in some people, other symptoms in other people? You'll often hear me say, one person's back pain is another person's insomnia, is another person's migraines, is another person's post exertional malaise, that the symptoms themselves aren't necessarily so indicative of what the root of the problem is. So, paying attention to the symptoms, their specific flavor, if you will, isn't for most people what is going to help you figure out how to get rid of them. Okay. But that said, aren't you curious? Why did my brain pick these specific symptoms for me? Why do I have this and someone else has something else? And over the years, in the hundreds of interviews that I've done, in the countless hours of research that I've done into this topic, I've heard people explain pieces of it, somewhat satisfying, like they're capturing a component of it. However, it typically left me feeling like that doesn't explain all of it. Until now, I just heard an explanation for why your brain chooses the symptoms that it does that I think covers it all. And here's what I know about recovery. Even if putting a lot of attention on what your specific symptoms are isn't necessarily going to be the best use of your time and energy, we do know that overall, the more you understand about what's happening in your body and why it's happening, the more quickly you're able to move through it and to move past it. It's scarier when you don't know what's going on. But when you start to see why your brain and nervous system are putting on the particular show that they are for you, it helps to take the fear away from it and helps you to move past it and finally put these symptoms, chronic symptoms, to rest. So it should come as no surprise. It was no surprise to me that the person that I feel has explained this the best is the incredible Dr. Howard Schubiner. I've had him here on the channel. Phenomenal. He is just leading the way in our space. One of the key people that are driving things forward with the work he's doing, with the research he's doing. He's been doing this work for years. He knows his stuff. So I'm going to lay out for you how Dr. Schubiner explains why your brain chooses the symptoms that it does. Get ready for your head to explode. One reason is that the symptoms are symbolic of something in your life. So maybe life feels dizzy right now and there's a lot going on. So you start having the symptom of being dizzy. Or maybe there's someone that's really challenging to deal with and you keep thinking what a pain in the neck they are and you start having neck pain. Now, I know some of these can sound a bit far fetched, but the more we understand about the brain works, we see that, yeah, I mean, it can create any and every symptom that exists. And there we see the patterns happening in life, that these things are bringing on these symptoms. So a second one is that the symptoms are socially contagious and that they're not actually contagious like a virus, but they are something that you are seeing around you. You know, people who have a particular symptom, they're talking about it a lot. All of a sudden, you have that symptom. Practitioners in their earlier stages talk about this, how it's happened to them when they're helping people, their clients, work through symptoms. The symptoms that the people are talking about, they start experiencing themselves. Dr. Schubiner even said that this has happened to him. So let's say lots of people around you or on the news have long COVID. This is something that your brain clings on to, thinks is an appropriate thing to give you, and knows that you will believe. The third one is from some sort of existing injury. So you may have at some point had some sort of structural problem in your body. You've injured your knee, you get knee pain, and then that goes away. You move past it, it heals, the pain stops as it should. And then years later, something gets really stressful in life, and all of a sudden, your knee pain is back. So, those Neural circuits in the brain are still there. It's something that your brain thinks, okay, yeah, let's reignite that one. This was a good alarm bell to get their attention in the past. I'll use it again right now. A fourth one is that it's familial. So we see that this tends to run in families like, oh, my mom had migraines. Now I have migraines. Again, your brain is like, this is something we've seen. This is something that you're aware of. This is something you'll believe. Like for me, my mom had chronic fatigue syndrome. So now I see it made sense. And I spent my whole life fearing it. That this is something when it was trying to get my attention, because we know symptoms are warnings, they're a communication alerting us to something that our brain and nervous system thinks needs our attention. So CFS was a good one to give me. So it's not that it is genetically running in families, but it is something observed. So it's something that our brain latches onto, and it's something that we then experience. And the fifth one is that it's something mechanical. So there's something that you are doing a lot. For an example that Dr. Schubiner gave was typing. Like maybe you're typing a lot at work, but you're really stressed at work, or you don't particularly love your job, or you have a problematic manager, or maybe you're on a project that's taking a really long time and draining you. And all of a sudden, you start getting, we had a lot of people that were getting pain that was coming from typing. And I love how he explained this. It's like, I hate to date myself, but we've come a long way with keyboards, and modern day keyboards are like pretty easy to use. They're not really difficult. Whereas if we go back a few decades, keyboards, typewriters were a lot of work. But then nobody was getting these injuries from typing. And it's one of the signs that we know that a symptom is neuroplastic in nature, meaning that it's happening coming from the brain and nervous system as opposed to something broken or damaged in your body when it happens in both sides at the exact same time. Like we don't use both of our hands in the same way. So the chance of you all of a sudden having pain in both hands is unlikely. And we've seen epidemics of this, that this happened in Australia in the 80s, just a massive epidemic of people in pain from typing. And then that went down and then it popped up in England. So some of these can overlap. It's the mechanical piece for this one, but then also that social contagion. Like you're seeing it around you, your brain latches onto that and suddenly uses those symptoms to get your attention as well. Now, everything I just shared with you, I learned from the Curable podcast, Like Mind, Like Body, hosted by the incredible Christy Yuppie in an interview she did with Dr. Howard Schubiner. Now, Curable, it's an app, if you're not aware, that was originally designed specifically around chronic pain, but over the years they have expanded to include many other symptoms. And although it's not specifically necessarily targeting ME/CFS or long COVID, it is covering these neuroplastic, these mind body symptoms all over the spectrum. And quite a few people that I've interviewed use the app to help them recover. And I have an affiliate link for Curable. I have for ages because I believe in them strongly. That gives you 6 weeks for free. So I'll put that in the video description. And you can learn a ton in 6 weeks. In fact, many people learn pretty much everything they need to know just in that amount of time. In fact, there was even a study done on Curable where they looked at people using Curable and however they wanted for 6 weeks. And there was statistically significant improvement in that group after just 6 weeks. And then they checked again at 12 weeks. And even though many of the people were no longer using the app beyond the 6 week mark, they still continued to see improvements in their chronic symptoms. So there's a lot of recovery programs out there, a lot of great information, but one of the core ones I still keep coming back to for simplicity, accessibility, and cost is Curable. They're backed in science. There are so many incredible experts on board with this app, and it's continually updating and evolving all the time. So it's definitely worth checking out. And if you're already using it, let me know in the comments how that's working for you. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll take a couple minutes to check out the Curable app because it really is pretty spectacular.